Every year, women all over the world are celebrated and appreciated for their dedication and hard work. This year is no different. Balance for Better is the theme of the International Women's Day. On this week's edition and the rest of the month, we'll be doing a special edition on women in Nigeria. On this edition, we'll take a look at an interview that I had with two renowned women in two different fields, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Funke Aboyade, and the creative director of House of Tara, Tara Feladrotoye. Born on the 6th of March 1977, Tara Feladrotoye is the managing director and creative director of House of Tara International, a Nigerian makeup and beauty company. As a law undergraduate from the University of Lagos, Tara Feladrotoye started her business at the age of 20. The business that started out from her living room has now grown into a franchise enterprise with three main lines of businesses: the makeup studio, the makeup school, and the Tara product line, comprising beauty products and professional makeup kits. She launched the first bridal directory in Nigeria in 1999. In 2000, she facilitated the first ever series of bridal seminars, drawing for the first time in Nigeria celebrated professionals in the bridal industry. She is a trained and certified makeup artist of Charles Fox Covent Garden, London. She is married to Feladrotoye, a business strategist and a corporate advocator, chief executive officer of Visible Impact, also a presidential aspirant under the Alliance for a New Nigeria. She is blessed with 3 sons.
I had this opportunity to do the makeup for the Chief of Naval Staff's daughter. At the time, this was during the military era. The Chief of Naval Staff was what you would describe as a vice president or something close to that now. And it was a highly celebrated wedding. She had just graduated from university, so her bridal train had a lot of young graduates who were also due to get married. So it meant that I started the business with having a clientele, a potential clientele list. And the bridal train was about 12 people, right? It gave me a good start because then, because it was a well-celebrated wedding, everyone talked about it, and also this new thing of having a makeup artist. And that's how we started. From there, of course, now that the business grew from just that making up for brides, going from house to house, to today we have 29 branches across the country, because we've now gone into retailing.
Over 3,000 yes. offices with representatives all over the country.
Yes.
I was going to ask you, so from when did the transition come from? Because now you have products, then you didn't have products. So how did you move the transition?
So people think that transition happens like there's one sudden transition. But I think that there are milestones, certain milestones or certain moments, but not one. It's never really tied to one. I started the product line because I had brides who said, I like the way I looked on my wedding day, I would like you to give me the products you used. And many times the products were, some of the products I just randomly bought from the markets. There were other times where people wanted to be trained by me. They wanted to do the same thing I was doing and wanted to have the opportunity to be trained. And there lies the opportunity to start a training school. So today we have 19 of those centers across Nigeria.
I know, yeah, we started with makeup, but how did the product line come to birth?
So as a makeup artist, you do makeup for someone. You do makeup for 10, 15, 20, 1,000 people. You find that there are certain limitations you have. Maybe you notice that this person is very light-skinned and you can't really find any product that suits them in the market. You meet someone else who has a certain shade, seems okay but not really apt. So you start to look for the opportunity to create something, and then you start to mix. right? You use one powder and then use another powder, because at that time, not like today where we're doing the highlighting and shading, but at the time you use one powder for someone. If it wasn't their shade, it wasn't their shade, so you had to start mixing. That desire made me realize that I could actually create specific products. It made it easier for me to be able to find consultation. So first of all, it started with makeup brushes. I do makeup for the bride. The bride says, I think there's a difference between when you apply with a puff and when you apply with a brush, right? And you begin to see the interest and the desire for brushes. So I started looking for manufacturers of makeup brushes. I remember heavily pregnant with maybe my second child, I don't even remember, going to South Africa to look for a manufacturer of brushes. At the time, the internet wasn't even this open, right? And then they said to me, oh, they will actually manufacture in East Asia, and then bring to South Africa before they send to me in Nigeria. But I was able to, I think over time, and sometimes when you're looking for opportunities, you knock at many doors before you finally get to that one door. Yes, and that's what happened to me. And sometimes our journey is also a journey of miracles, where things collide, things happen, and if we keep our minds open, those opportunities, we can see those opportunities. And
some people say that you need a lot of money to start a business, to grow. Money is a vital tool, but I know you started with as low as 15,000. Okay, please explain to us how you started with 15,000.
I don't know whether it's, 15,000, starting with 15,000 naira at that time, this was almost 20 odd years ago. 15,000 obviously still has, you need to find out what 15,000 is today, based on the problem with our currency now. But at that time, 15,000 naira was enough to buy my makeup box and the products that I needed to start. I tell a lot of entrepreneurs that you can start from where you are if you open up your mind. Sometimes it may not be that you have the capital, but you may have the goodwill where the owner of the goods can give you the goods to sell and pay back. And the first time they give you that opportunity, how you handle the first opportunity will determine if you can get more. And sometimes the currency that we need is not necessarily cash currency. Sometimes the currency of integrity, the currency of trust. And many times we destroy those currencies, and then we don't give ourselves to it. And then we sit there and think, oh, we need to get this huge amount of money from the banks. I didn't get a bank loan until many, many years after running my business. Because first of all, the banks didn't understand that it was a real business, didn't see, there wasn't enough track record to see whether this was a viable business to even give a loan to, right? So I always advise young entrepreneurs to, of course, there are some businesses that you cannot do without capital. But there are also a lot of businesses that you can do with small capital, with the money that you're using to buy your credit, right? The money you're using to buy a mobile phone, you can invest it in a business and buy a smaller phone, right? And in some cases, yes, if you do a good enough business plan and you are able to sell the capacity of the business, you can get investors, what you call angel investors, members of your family and friends. But 15,000 was what I started with. I'm not lying about it.
Okay, but now, over the years, there are lots of challenges that you have faced in building the business. I want to ask about the challenge of getting a proper workforce, people that can carry on the vision that you have in your mind. How were you able to put that kind of team together?
I think that it's one of the most vital elements of building a successful business is the people.
Yes.
And not just people, good people. I went through my cycle. I went through the cycle where I first of all was employing but not defining what they were coming to do. So people came and were confused as to what their roles were. I went through a cycle where we're not paying well enough to have the quality of staff that we wanted. Went through a cycle where I wasn't able to communicate my vision effectively so people could be inspired by it and also see what role they play in it. I went through many of those cycles. I went through cycles of just employing wrong, people who didn't fit into the culture of the business where we're going, whose aspirations were not in line with our own aspirations. But that cycle also came, and I learned from each of those each phase. I learned something, and I took what I learned and brought it to where we are now. And one of the things I found out as an entrepreneur is that you have to be a vision bearer. You have to be someone who has a strong vision and whose vision is inspiring. So communication is one of those critical skills that a leader, a founder, an entrepreneur needs to have, because to attract a quality of staff, quality of team members, quality of employees.
Now, you talked earlier about the fact that you had to carry your son to meetings and all of that. How were you able to manage your home as well as your business? Because growing the business is something that would have taken a lot of your time.
There's never been a time where there's a balance. It always seems like there's something that is taking a stronger front. And I remember that when the business was smaller, and my kids were smaller, I almost feel like I lost myself. I lost myself because all I could think about was diaper changes, breastfeeding, ensuring that the bottles were clean, sterilized, and to be sure that the nipple, right, was clear. The little things that drive us nuts, the fear of the child catching a cold and refuses to go and have a viral infection because you drop them in a school where the other children have viral infection. A challenge of who's carrying the child, who's giving the child a kiss. My first child was so cute. Who's giving the child? These are the kinds of things that I was sleeping and waking up with. But then I had brides who were calling me. I needed my days to be booked, and I needed to be available to do the makeup of the bride for the wedding, the engagement. Then I also had a husband who also needed my attention, needed to be sure that the house was safe, clean, homely for him, make sure that his clothes are washed, pressed, and ironed, so that every time he went for a meeting, he had enough things, make sure that there's toilet roll in the toilet, and soap when he wants to take his bath. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
But all that time, I had to juggle all this. What I found was I didn't remember what my own experiences were in terms of my person. That is Tara, that is not a mother, that is not a wife. I felt like I lost myself. And I think that may be the story or the journey of many mothers. But guess what? The Bokun Awoshika survived it, right? And they now have graduates, children who are graduates, who are buying them things, okay? And they didn't die, right?
So we can't die.
No, you will not die, right? And I have also gone through that season. The season I'm going through is different from that season. I'm worrying about GCSEs, A levels, and all of that. Are you sure that they are reading well? Who is that girl? Who's the person they're talking to on Snapchat? I'm now more concerned about these things. But I'm enjoying myself more now. I'm more settled, right, as a person. My business is more settled as well. I can take time off on my own. I have domestic staff. I now understand how to employ domestic staff. Before, you change 10 in a year. You cannot even tell the one that will stay. Now, I can decode them.
How? Please give me that. That information is necessary.
Some questions you ask them. Somebody tell you, anybody that tells you, where were you working before? My Oga has gone to Canada, has traveled my life. The minute they tell me that, that's it, I'm not employing you, right? I want stability, right? I'm looking for people who stayed, where they are, they've stayed 1 year. Where they were before, they've stayed 2 years. So the minute you were there 3 months, after 3 months you've left.
You left.
And I must find the person who works for the last time.
Your home is successful. How did you do it?
So I think, first of all, it's a choice of who you marry. Very, very important. I was very, very lucky to marry a man who loves me incredibly and who's committed to my well-being. He almost thinks that it's part of his assignment in this world, that I should be happy and content and fulfilled. I was very, very lucky to also identify that person. Because sometimes maybe that man is that person, but you just didn't know, right? So I think I was lucky to identify that this was the person and who's extremely supportive. So that's the love, the commitment to my well-being is number one. And I'm also committed to his well-being, and so it's reciprocal. So nobody needs to look out for themselves. I don't need to look out for myself because I know that my husband will be looking out for me. My husband also feels exactly the same way. I think that's a critical part of similarity in our values, in our value system, people tease that we're very alike, and of course we become more alike as we've grown older. But
what advice do you have? But you said a lot of things for young girls, you know, that are just, you know, watching and hoping that one day I want to be like her. Oh my God. What advice do you have for them?
Be yourself, you know, look inwards, find out what your strengths are, and tell yourself that you're beautiful. Tell yourself that you're amazing. Tell yourself that you're gifted. Believe it. And when you believe it, you become a fuller person.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes.